Hello there, this is Steve here in Sydney on the Laying Gnosis website, truebluehealer.com, where in just 20 minutes you can get physical evidence of your divine spark activation to prove to you that that's not just a New Age rumour, it's a reality that exists in every single person. And you can get physical evidence of its activation in 20 minutes, and you'll be getting some vivid messaging dreams and an internal mentoring voice and some other wonderful things like Kundalini Rise, all thrown in for free. And it's triggered at truebluehealer.com. I commend it to you, and really it's the state of being you're supposed to be in when you awaken. If you don't want to wake up yet, that's okay. So, some wonderfully positive things are happening at the moment in Europe and America. Pundits are pointing out that the New World Order seems to be falling apart, having had 50 years of steady successes. Suddenly it's being revealed as a very fragile thing, and that Brexit, which triggered off tremors all around the world, is being reinforced by Austria, which is going to elect an anti-immigration, anti-EU president, Mr. Hoffa, very soon. And similar news is touted from Holland. Geert Wilders is so anti-Islam and anti-immigration that he wants to ban the Quran in Holland, bulldoze mosques, ban halal slaughter, and deport anyone who breaks the law. And he's the most anti-Islam person, and he's encouraging other nations to think in a like-minded fashion. Angela Merkel, who's actually a Jewish person who doesn't consider herself to be German at all, in fact she actively dislikes Germans. She won't be re-elected, I don't think, and there's a growing movement in Germany to leave the EU. This will surely cause the end of the EU when Austria and Holland opt to move out. It'll be a race to see who can actually get out of the EU first. Will it be Holland? Will it be Austria? Will it be Britain? Lisa May's trying to delay it. And then we just found out now that a former Italian Prime Minister said, and he personally authored the exit legislation, the 2-year rule about getting out and all the procedures, and it's actually designed not to work. So really it's not exit legislation at all. He thinks that's clever and that's smart, and Britain will stay in because the paperwork's just too hard to do. Well, I don't know where these high-flying intellectuals get their ideas from, but they're sadly distanced from common sense reality, because us little people all know the best way to get out of an organisation is to stop paying your weekly dues. They'll soon cut off your services, whether it be water, electricity, telephone or whatever. You'll be thrown out of your house for non-payment of rent, that sort of thing. So I don't know why that hasn't occurred to Britain, which is paying £3 million a week, I'm seeing, £3 million a week to the EU just to be there. So stop paying that money and see what happens next. It might be painful, but 2 other nations could be joining them soon. And that's a very practical way to get disconnected from the tentacles of a large bullying organisation. It seems to work everywhere else. It's got to work for the EU. That'll be the destruction of the EU. You could see it in a couple of years. I'm very glad to see. Hero of the Brexit move, which has sent earth-shaking tremors around the world, the whole Western world at least. Nigel Farage has been in America campaigning, and he's savagely critical of Hillary Clinton. She's coming apart with increasing scrutiny off the internet. She's been photographed with seemingly catheters running down her leg, colostomy bags. She seems to be on medication. The internet is studying her so much she can't escape. She hasn't done a press conference for a couple of 100 days. She can't stand up long enough to do a press conference. And her numerous bizarre facial expressions testify to the fact that she's very unwell, and she's being pumped with drugs with an attending doctor who, as soon as he was noticed hovering around her all the time, the doctor was pulled, all because of the act of Paul Joseph Watson pointing this out. Who the hell is this mystery man carrying a syringe hovering around Hillary all the time? She's not going to be fit to be president, of course, if she needs that such close attention. But she's only got to flop over the line. She can become handicapped or even die, and the vice president will take over, and they will still have won the election. She's representing the New World Order, and if you don't know, her PhD is available online. I'll put a link for it, and it's a fawning PhD, fawning at the feet, grovelling at the feet, worshipping a Jewish radical, a Marxist radical called Alinsky. Goodness gracious. She's been a Marxist all of her life, and she's only interested in the destruction of society. That's all Marxists are ever interested in, revolution and destruction of everything that we have. The Marxist utopia is their dream. It's not going to work, but they don't care about that. It's the joy of the revolution, of destroying everything, that appeals to Marxists. We've also got the wonderful leak about George Soros. A lot of his his secret paperwork has been whistleblown out onto the internet. And we're finding out now that it's him who wants the internet given to the United Nations so he can own and operate it. That would be a fatal mistake to give everything to George Soros. Hillary Clinton has thousands of emails corresponding with Soros, who is her boss. Do you really want one man to be boss of the world? For goodness sake. It's crazy, isn't it? But 3 years ago, Soros wanted that. He wanted it. And Obama's obediently said he's going to give it all to the United Nations in a month or two. But I seriously don't think the internet can be just given away like that to the United Nations. He doesn't own it. And can he give away Washington? Can he give away to the United Nations Florida? Can he give away General Motors just because he's the boss without parliamentary approval? And it turns out Lord Monckton has been saying that it's easier to stop Obama than you think. A simple, cheap legal process of applying at a court an injunction to stop Obama stepping outside the Constitution. Little people can stop him directly. So that's worth pursuing, isn't it? To stop the internet being given away, to let George Soros and Saudi Arabia control the internet. It's already started, by the way, on Facebook. Natural News is reporting that you can't type the word vaccine now into Facebook. You've got to put the word compulsory in front of it, or your typing just won't stick. So you can expect if the Soros people and all his open borders groups get hold of the internet, they can just prevent you ever typing certain words which they don't like. So you can't discuss most subjects that don't support their agenda. What will happen following that would likely be relocalisation of the internet in each country, and then private connections between country groups away from the old-fashioned internet. I suspect the internet would be broken up very quickly into competing smaller internets. You can't stop competition and money available wanting to take dissatisfied customers away from the mainstream. There's always that churn we've had in mobile phone companies and ISP providers, haven't we? All of our internet lives. So it would be a sad thing for the internet to be given away, but it wouldn't be terminal if it happened, because I think competition would guarantee other internets opening up. So, exciting things this week, in the world this week, don't you think? I've got a little example here where I show you a web page. It's a Jewish lobbyist website, and I have a guest, New York Jewish journalist, and he's advocating that because the homosexual lobby bullied the medical system to get homosexuality taken out of the desktop physician's manual, no longer listed as a disease, that was such a wonderfully successful political exercise that it should be, there's other ways of getting more political success using the medical system. And so what we do is, what he wants to do, I've shown you the page here, I've got it coming up. He wants to call anti-Semitism a mental disease, which opens the door to you being medicated for disagreeing with Jewish people and potentially you being locked up in padded cells. Does that sound like 1918 Bolshevik Russia again? where he used to get a death sentence for making anti-Semitic statements or locked up in psychiatric hospitals. So they never change, do they? And this is voiced today. Here it is. Have a look at this sickening article written on a Jewish website by a Jewish journalist who thinks he's advancing the cause of Judaism, for goodness sake. Here it is. So here we have a very good example of the constant war by the Jewish culture against the rest of the world. You can see this is a Jewish website. It's an Israeli newspaper or something. Certainly got plenty of Israeli ads in here. And the author of this article here says, could strengthening the association between anti-Semitism and mental illness help to curb it? So basically he's saying, let's declare anti-Semitism a mental illness, and then we can work our way toward drugging and jailing people, basically for daring to criticise Jews, Jewish culture or Israel. And he bases it all on the success of the LGBT push, which is another Jewish-sourced movement. He says here, the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, removed homosexuality from its official diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders there, you see. And that was a wonderful thing, diffusing the anger and shame of many gays and lesbians, which helped to improve their mental health, in his estimation, by taking them out of the sick list. Okay, maybe. But down here he's saying it's such a wonderful political success, politicising medicine that was, that he wants to, as a Jew doing his job fighting anti-Semitism, never-ending fight against anti-Semitism, he wants to add anti-Semitism to this physician's desktop listing of illnesses. Now that's a gradualistic idea, and if it ever took off, he's running this up the flagpole, hoping to get some traction. He seems to feel it's part of his duty as a Jew to do this, and straight away you could start moving then toward, if you could get this ever up around the world with Jewish lobby groups everywhere, particularly in America and the EU, you could get people saying, yes, anti-Semitism is a mental illness and you need to be drugged or jailed until you agree with Jewish people. So having a different opinion could get you landed in jail or drugged by your local doctor if the Jews get their way. It is truly amazing that such rubbish, this is a totally junk article, it's wishful thinking, it's infantile, but it's very common amongst Jewish literature that anyone who dares to criticise or question what they are doing is anti-Semitic. Without anti-Semitism, I don't think Jewish culture could exist, because it's been noticed that many Jewish students feeling lonely when they first go to university start spraying swastikas on their doors and things and screaming anti-Semitism because it makes them feel more whole, you see. There's a psychological need to feel oppressed. It's part of their psychological makeup. And that just suggests to you, it gives you an idea about the damage done by the religion of Judaism to its own practitioners. It's unsurprising to me that it doesn't do a lot more damage. But so his conclusion down here is we've really got to get anti-Semitism into the physician's desktop manual, and then we can label people as sick for criticising us. And down here amongst the comments, I managed to get my own comment in here, and I just said, well, if you want to start putting people's behaviour into the desktop physician's disease manual, where would you put George Soros, who says the white race has to be annihilated down here? To feel and even think the white race is inferior in every conceivable plane is natural, given its history and current documents. Let the white race, West Country, perish in blood and suffering. That's 1 billion people to be annihilated. So I'm asking this writer, this journalist, this freelance journalist, where would you put George Soros in your desktop manual? I'm absolutely amazed, got past the moderator. I asked him here at the end, so Dan Hooney, where would you place this character in your physician's disease manual? Come on, you've got to put that in there, surely. Wanting to Holocaust 1 billion people off the planet on your own whim, for goodness sake, Doesn't that say something about Jewish literature and the Jewish mindset toward everybody else? And down here there's some very strong comments calling this man out for what he is. Look at this. Always scheming, you people are truly worthless human garbage. Your new plan is to have the APA classify the pushback against collective Jewish behaviour like APAC, media financial fraud, orchestrated by Jews, as a mental disorder. Kicked out of 151 countries for the same reason every time and still scheming. It can't be their fault, it must be everybody else's fault, and they have to be removed by George Soros, you see. So, got a real head-kicking this journalist down here. This article is junk and sounds to me like a precedent for locking up in an asylum anyone who dares cite any even facts about the Jewish scourge. Always scheming, taking, finding ways to cheat that you can't win outright. You silly, patronising fool. Very hard words here and very true. I won't read the rest of it, it's getting a bit vulgar there. And just going back here, here's an example of anti-Semitism allegedly at Yale, you see. See this picture here? Yale is a Jew hole, let's round them up. There's far too many Jews in Yale, and that was even noted by, admitted to Yale that is, that was noticed by Woodrow Wilson, American president, a long time ago. The problem with this is they often do it themselves. When they go to Yale, they start doing this. They hold up these posters and say, look, they all out to get me. And the truth is, they've done it themselves just so they feel completely Jewish. Without anti-Semitism, they feel there's something missing. So you'll never know who wrote this, whether it's how long it was pinned up for, or whether it was just, was this even at Yale? Where was it? Will you ever know? Goodness gracious. So without this, what would they do? They'd have nothing to complain about. No reason to keep attacking white people, would they? So that's just one example. There's a lot of head-kicking comments down here. The author gets no sympathy at all in his ludicrous article to make anti-Semitism, disagreement, criticism, a mental disease, for goodness sake. So that's just one example of the full spectrum of warfare against the white race conducted by George Soros and the power pyramid beneath him. And now another thing, just to let you know that they're after you in many different ways. It's full spectrum warfare, financial, economic, ethnic, social, you name it. There's a war against you if you're white, okay, like it or not. And here's an example of it. It's raising eyebrows in Sydney, a concern amongst parents, that a 4-year-old boy went to his first day at preschool in Sydney, and he came home from his first day at preschool, 4 years old, and asked to be castrated. He didn't really want to be a boy, he didn't like it. And one day at preschool caused him to change his mind about something he'd never even thought about. Now, this is a Safe Schools initiative, where it's a bit of a joke, isn't it? You call that Safe Schools. The LGBT group that pushes all kinds of sexual perversion and sexual, what can I say, shall we say sexual reassignment surgery, all kinds of surgery. The goal of all of them is to increase the death rate of the white race. If you just think about it, the more little boys you can get to ask to be castrated, the better. They breed less, the white race will die out quicker. This sounds very crude and nasty, but it's what's happening today all around you. It's in Sydney newspapers, mainstream newspapers. Now, they talk about stopping the maturation of the little boy so that before he gets all full male development, they can arrest it and turn him into a female, you see. So he doesn't realise at age 4 he's asking to be castrated. He just says, I want to be a girl, see? But what he does is he becomes a non-breeding person, just like all the gays and the transsexuals. Now, the transsexuals, they have a 2,000% higher suicide rate, and the gays have a 400% increase in suicide, okay? So, all in all, the whole LGBT program, the gay marriage thing and all that, is all about stopping white people breeding, to hasten the demise, to lower the birth rate of the evil, nasty white race, you see. What have you done to deserve this? Well, you exist, according to George Soros. So this LGBT attack on little 4-year-old kids at school is outrageous and must be stopped. Parents are horrified at discovering this. I'm not sure how to handle this, but it's all Jewish sourced, all of it. Ask Gilad Atzmon. It's as simple as that. I'll find a link for you on that. Did you know that 45% of transgender people attempt suicide? That's a lot of people, isn't it? So doing anything to confuse you, stop you breeding, and ensure that you will, of your own volition, one day commit suicide is joy to the people who hate everybody else, to the ethnic group that hates all other peoples that have been thrown out of 103 countries, okay? It's their way of slowly eating away, white-anting other nations, other races, and that's Talmudic Judaism, okay? So, look it up yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. I'm not making any of this up. It's all in newspapers today, mainstream media. I've given you a link. I've given you a little video. Read the thing yourself and read the comments below it. And leave a comment yourself. A bit of feedback to that Jewish journalist who thinks that mental illness should include anti-Semitism, because anyone who disagrees with them is mentally ill. So they can be jailed and gulagged again. You see? The same old ideas keep coming up over and over again. Anyway, there's still some very positive things this week in Europe, and things are looking a whole lot better. A little bit of sunshine there we can celebrate. However, I will point out to you that Geert Wilders is a raving Zionist. But I don't think you can get anywhere in politics without being a Zionist these days. Witness Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Can you get anywhere in US politics without being a raving Zionist? You can be kept out of politics by the Zionists who control the media. So I would dare say Geert Wilders might be forced to do the same thing in Holland. I'm not sure about that. But we must remain cautious about these things, because basically we've got Jewish people, Zionists, creating the problem for Europe, opening the floodgates to let the immigrants in, keeping the floodgates open, that's Merkel and Soros, and then another Zionist pops up, Geert Wilders, to fix the problem by opposing the problem caused by the same Zionists. So we have to remain alert to these strange goings on in the world around us that could be a whole lot better place, I think, if we didn't have this Zionist problem. What do you think? Do you think there are any spiritual or intellectual solutions to the way we are forever falling victim, it seems, to Zionist machinations? Can you give me some ideas about any ways to stop this? I'd really like to hear from you, dear viewers. Steve here in Sydney. Over and out.